Alright guys, and today we are looking at the New Warriors Classic Omnibus Volume 2. Now, you guys know, if you've been watching me a long time, if you watch my Omnibus reviews, I really liked the Volume 1 of New Warriors. I was totally blown away and took by surprise. Didn't really know much about these characters and really loved it. So, I picked up Volume 2 and I was very excited to give this one a chance because I liked Volume 1 so much. And we have here New Warriors issues 27 to 53, so quite a big chunk of it. And then we also have New Warriors Annual 3 and 4. We have Night Trasher for Control, which is his first kind of mini series, and that's 4 issues. We have X-Force 32 to 33, which is a crossover. We have Night Trasher 1, which kind of is a storyline that intertwines with New Warriors. We also have 11 and 12 and Nova 6 and 7, and those also are a crossover to the New Warriors storyline. And then you have New Warriors Ashen Edition 1, which we'll talk about that. And Marvel Comics presents 122, 159, and 163, and Marvel Holiday Special 2. So you got a couple little one-shots kind of either intertwining or kind of at the end of this book. So, what is this about? Is it as good as Volume 1? Well, we'll get to that. We can't just skip to the end, right? So, New Warrior starts off pretty strong. What I really liked about it is you get right into these characters again. And what I love about the New Warriors, they are not teenagers, but they're not adults, like full old adults. They're kind of in the middle. Some are teenagers, some are adults, like in the young 20s. And I really love this because you get a different dynamic than some like Teen Titans or Runaways or things like that. But you don't quite get it like a team like the Avengers or Justice League. You get the middle ground. And with that, it really makes some interesting storylines. So we start the book kind of as just like this regular, beating up bad guys and building up a team. And we get right into the miniseries of Night Trasher, which really kind of helps expand his character, where he has to go off and deal with his own issues. And he kind of teams up with 1 or 2 New Warriors throughout, but it's mostly his solo story. I'm a huge fan of this character from reading the first Omnibus, so I really liked his storyline here. I wouldn't say it was mind-blowing, but it was pretty solid. And then we get some really cool political issues where the New Warriors go overseas to deal with some issues, and they do some things, and then you have to question by the government, should you have done that and why were you there? All of that I thought worked really well. So all of that was great. And then as we progress, we get into the first crossover, and I really can't stress enough that all the stuff before this X-Force crossover I was digging. I was enjoying. Even 1 or 2 slower issues, not too great, but Marvel Boy comes back from being in jail, and I really like that he was undercover, and it's all going to be great. And then X-Force happened. And listen, I don't like X-Force during this portion of the storylines, or I didn't like the storyline. So they cross over with the New Warriors, and this is the most boring storyline in the entire book. It was a struggle. It actually made me take 3 days to read just this 4 or 5 issue mini or crossover event. So this was the worst part of the book. I gotta say, I was really struggling. Even the New Warriors issues, I felt were more focused on the X-Force people. And I don't like that because I don't like X-Force. So yeah, that was just horrendous stuff. But luckily, once we get out of that, once we're out of the X-Force, we jump right back into the nitty-gritty of the New Warriors storyline, which is mostly them working together and being some type of family. When these assassinations start happening by a certain some baddie, and they start killing off not the New Warriors but the people related to the New Warriors or friends, then we get some really intense moments, some really great character growth for a couple of these characters, including especially Rage and Firestarter. So all of that I really love. This storyline is my favorite in the entire book. It's intense, it's scary, it's the growth of these characters, how they have to evolve, and you also get like an epilogue of that storyline, really focusing on how they're going forward now. And certainly some characters do some extreme changes, and some just kind of have to live with what they did. So I loved all of that. So the first half of this book, besides that X-Force, was really good. And then the second half is pretty solid. We do introduce some new characters to the team, slowly here and there. I don't know a lot of these characters. I know Dark Hawk, but that's pretty much the only one. But they kind of felt like reserved characters in the background. Cloak and Dagger are here for a little bit, but they kind of slip in and out. So I think, you know, what kind of like offset me a little is there's a Nova storyline here, which is not bad, but it felt like it was very much just building up to Nova's own single series. And, you know, that's kind of sucks for me because I like Nova, but I want to read New Warriors as a family, and I felt like that was a diversion from that. So that kind of was a disappointment. But when we get back to them being a team again, it's really good. We bring in a new enemy, or an old enemy who's not too happy with this team. And we get like this, I think it's called Time and Time Again, which is a big crossover with the Night Trasher solo series, Nova, and New Warriors, which kind of sends them all back in time. And they have to kind of deal with like these what if storylines. Rage dealing with learning about how people who sold the other, you know, like black people were people like tribe leaders and stuff. So that makes him question things. And remember, Rage is very young and he's only 14, even though he has the body of an adult. And then Night Trash has to deal with, you know, racism in terms of them trying to hang him in slavery days. So there's some really, really good storylines here that I really enjoyed. But overall, I felt like this event or crossover was way too long. If we cut out maybe 3 issues, I think we would have served the overall pacing a lot better. But it wasn't bad. It was a pretty good thing. And then we get the final few issues, which to me closes out the storylines really well. It's some of my favorite stuff because they feel like a family, a unit trying to figure out who's going to be on the New Warriors, who's leaving, how are we going to set up reserves if we need backup, and all that good stuff. And again, they do simple missions like going after people who've done crimes and they went over the top and killed innocent people. And they are, you know, now a team for a pretty long while at this point who kind of serve justice, but in a calm and kind of like arrest way. Like, hey, you're going to stop this and we're going to take you in. So all of that I thought was really good. Overall, New Warriors is a top ended team book because I think team books are really hard for me to get attached because we kind of lose sight of what makes these teams great, with sometimes diverging into just 1 or 2 characters for too long. And while this book sometimes does that, I think for the most part we are focused on the team and how their dynamic crosses. That's when this book is on fire. That's when it's at its best. Now, besides that horrendous X-Force crossover, which I'm just sorry, I hated that crossover, everything else in this book ranged from not bad to great. And that to me means that it's a very much worth reading Omnibus because the X Factor is only like 100 to 150 pages of this entire over 1,000-page Omnibus. So that means that's pretty good, guys. So I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I think it is very much worth owning if 2 things. You read the first volume because you need that team dynamic and why they work so well. And 2, it's a great follow-up. And I'm going to add a 3rd point because why not? It's my review and I can. This is a 90s book that does not suck, which is a huge compliment, a huge... Let's clap for it. You know, 90s was a rough era for superhero comics. Let's all be honest. And here, it's pretty good. So with the storylines being good, the characters being good, and the art was pretty damn good throughout the entire series, which really surprised me. I felt like it was very consistent. Everybody looked how they looked in every single issue throughout the entire book. Nobody vastly changed into a different design. And overall, I gotta say, those 3 things, storyline, characters, and art all being pretty damn solid makes it for a very enjoyable time. So, should you pick up New Warriors Volume 2? If you read Volume 1, it's a must-buy in my opinion. This is the other half of this run. Well, there's a 3rd part, but this is the other half of the original team. The art's pretty solid, the story's pretty solid, the characters are great. So 3.5 out of 5. Go check this one out. If you like my review, hit that thumbs up because that means you like my stuff and you want to see more and I want to make more for you. If you loved it, hit the subscribe button because that just gives me flutters in my heart. And if you love me, well, I think I said that. But if you want to come back, I'll have more stuff like this. Love doing omnibus reviews. Love doing nerdy stuff like video games, top 5, rankings, tier lists, and also comic stuff related as well. I got a really cool video that I'm making that's taking me a while about the Ultimate Universe. So check that out when it comes out. Should be out soon or maybe before this. Who knows when I want to get it done. But I hope you guys enjoyed. And go read some really good comic books. There's so many good ones out there.